Zebra Products is the UK's leading distributor of premium equestrian brands catering for horse and rider. From Veridus, Amerigo, Sprenger, Akeep, Uvex and many more leading brands, Zebra's impressive portfolio includes clothing, saddles and accessories, boots for horse and rider, care products, horse rugs and helmets. Head to zebraproducts.co.uk to see where you can purchase their products from, which will help you stay ahead of the herd. One of the most sophisticated brands in the equestrian market, Cavalleria Toscana has the ambition to create products that make technical sportswear look elegant while still supporting the rider's performance each step of the way. From top quality, super stylish competition wear to fashionable clothing suitable for riding in at the highest level and wearing every day, such as comfortable breeches and stylish sweatshirts. Cavalleria Toscana brings together a range of matching equine outfits for both horse and rider. Visit zebraproducts.co.uk for more.
We're getting an Olympic Games.
Tokyo. And the countdown is on.
Quarantine in Tokyo.
Big moment this.
I'm excited.
To win gold.
The Olympic Games, how exciting.
2 rounds of show jumping.
Tokyo.
Top class eventing.
The team of 3.
Big day.
I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it.
Tokyo specials.
It is spectacular.
Tokyo.
Tokyo.
This episode of the Equratings Eventing podcast is very kindly brought to you by Zebra Products, the UK leading distributor of premium equestrian brands catering for horse and rider. Both of them have an XCJ10 of 100%. They have been clear cross country in 10 out of their last 10 runs.
Just go on the basis of keep it simple, stupid. It's going to be really hot, and the people that are used to the heat will be better.
Welcome to the Equratings Eventing podcast, and it is the second of our big Tokyo preview shows for you listeners. We have already done Europe. The European show is available to listen to now, but this one is all about the rest of the world. I have got a couple of excellent guests and a very special guest joining the show at some point as well, but I will start by saying, David Byrne, have you cracked open your can of Prosecco once again?
I know. So it's 8:30 in the morning. Drinking anything, Prosecco included, I think at 8:30 in the morning is the start of a slippery slope. You need to be very careful, unless it's kind of like the morning after your wedding or the morning after Liverpool have won the Champions League, something along those lines. I think be careful about getting involved in this. But, Nicole, I feel like, I don't know if it's kind of a self-destruct or what's happening, but I'm very tired. You know, we're very busy. There's an awful lot on. And I just kind of feel like playing the violin as the Titanic sinks. So, and that's my physical state, is the Titanic. I'm sinking into this. So I have cracked open the Prosecco. I've mixed it with orange juice this time, just to try and give it a semblance of something that's acceptable before 9 a.m. But yeah, I'll tell you why. I'm drinking Prosecco because I have found a new angle. Which I believe is something that is going to be the winning or the losing of the Olympic Games in Tokyo this summer. I'm going to reveal it, and it's very, very good news for the teams on this show.
Are you revealing it now?
No, part of the show.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we'll wait for that big reveal. I have to admit, when you said you were doing that, I was like, well, I can't let you drink alone. So I have cracked open, in honour of one of the horses that we will be talking about on this show, Vasilid Lassos, Andrew Hoy. I got sent some very, very nice liqueur from the Oxton Liqueur Company, who have just started sponsoring him. I need to get myself an alcoholic drink sponsor, that's all I'm saying. But I have got a little tipple of a Damson Gin liqueur to go along with it.
Hang on. Firstly, #gifted. That's unreal. But secondly, gin, Nicole, pre 9 a.m. is not okay.
Right. It's only like a day's hunting, to be honest. It's only like a day's hunting. I mean, Catherine Austin will have done this many a time. Catherine, are you going to be the sensible one among us and, you know, be acceptable when not drinking pre 9 a.m.?
I just need to say how very, very proud I am to be part of a team that actively encourages pre-9 a.m. drinking of spirits. And although I feel like I feel like I am so overworked and overexcited at the same time because of the Olympics that I don't feel like the Titanic's going down. I feel like one of those, old Looney Tunes cartoons of like the Road Runner with his legs going round and round and round like that. And I'm thinking of swapping my 5th coffee for the morning for that winter favourite, an espresso martini, which I think probably trumps either of you.
That would be bold, Catherine.
I feel it would. I will stick with the coffee, but, the vodka is there.
You could just stick a little tipple of something like a bit of Baileys in your coffee or something just to give it an extra edge. I should say, listeners, none of us have to drive today. I'm just putting that little bit of housekeeping out there. So,
and I've ridden my horse, so that's all fine.
Exactly. But, if you're listening to this and you are at home and you are safe and you're not in charge of a small person or anything like that, and you want to join us, then be our guest. Crack open a drink. No, look, let's go on with the show because we have got so much to talk about. But we are going to start rest of the world. I think we should start with the home nation, with Team Japan, because they have put so much into this Olympic Games. Their riders have basically uprooted their entire lives to come over and be based in the UK, most of them, or in Europe, to train for Tokyo. And honestly, they come here with a great shout. So let's start with the Japanese. Their team is as follows for you listeners. We have got Yoshiaki Iowa, Taliora and Cruz. My favourite Yoshi fact is he led the dressage in London 2012. Toshiyuki Tanaka, Talma Dalu, and Kazuma Tomoto and Vinci Delavine. They have got 3 very, very good horses, 3 very, very good riders, and a lot of help and support. Yoshi has long worked with Michael Young. Toshi is based with Angela Tucker in the UK. And Kazu is with William Foxpitt. So they've been trained by the very best. I think they are in with a great shout here. They were 4th as a team at the World Equestrian Games. Dee, I'm going to come to you first. Will it be a fairy tale for Team Japan?
Will it be a fairy tale for Team Japan? It's not as far away or as unrealistic or as big a fairy tale, maybe. The idea of it being a fairy tale in some way suggests, of course, the home nation and the excitement of it, but also it suggests that it's in some way an outside chance. To give you a little bit of context on my numbers here, I have them more lightly. Okay, they're not that lightly, 3% to win gold. France 5%, Ireland 2%, New Zealand 2%. So the first thing I'm saying is Japan over the last few years, they've brought in a lot of talent. They've also developed a lot of talent, that everyone has come on this journey probably since 2016, Knickers, would that be about right, when we started really knowing that this was happening and we began to see the horses arriving, that everything began to change around then in terms of the results that we were seeing. What I'm suggesting, or what I'm fascinated by, is that I have them ahead of both Ireland, more interestingly, maybe ahead of New Zealand.
Mm.
They're in a great situation here. I have them as a 20% chance of a podium. 21% is what they are. But again, for context, Ireland 19%, one behind them, and France 26%, one above them. But put yourself into the context of the European show. When we're talking about Ireland, we're talking about, grit, tenacity, getting it done. Sam Watson, Carl Daniel, Sarah Ennis, been there, done that, want them on your team. They're behind Team Japan in terms of the podium chances here. So I want to set up this conversation, Nicole, in that context, that fairy tale because it's a home nation, yes, but fairy tale because it's in some way a massive underdog, not anymore.
No, I think that's fair to say. They're not the underdogs. I feel like we were all on Japan watch for the last couple of years. And actually, the delay of the Olympic Games, I think psychologically would have hit them very, very hard, because the likes of Kazuma Shimoto, you know, he's left his family, his children, his wife in Japan to be based in the UK to train for these Olympic Games. He made the switch from pure show jumping to tackle the eventing to aim for Tokyo Olympic Games. So it was very, very tough to then get a year extension of the plan. And so he no doubt had to work extremely hard last year, but they are very, very determined and they've put a lot on the line for these games. And that, I think, makes them pretty dangerous to the other nations. They're also, I think it would be worth saying, Catherine, everybody's talking about the heat, the humidity, everything that is perhaps unexpected. We'll talk a few of the nations actually on this show are probably far more used to that kind of condition than we are in the UK. But actually, these riders, they're riding in their own back garden, so to speak. They're used to that. That's not a concern for them.
Yes, although the vast majority of their eventing hasn't been in Japan, obviously, it's been in Europe. Yeah, you're right in the terms of they are very used to the sort of conditions that riders will experience. But I'm not sure that the home advantage thing, without a huge crowd and without a history of competing at a high level in that country, I'm not sure it's as relevant as you think it is. I think possibly what they've got to their advantage is the fact that they're really good. That actually at least two of these riders are competitive at least 4-star level against the best, inverted commas, best eventing countries in the world. That these guys have won at 4-star level. That to me is more significant.
Yeah, it's a good point. I've got a fun fact for you. So we have been talking about the importance of cross-country reliability and talking a lot about, the team of 3 effect, and 3 jumping clear rounds in the cross country is going to be hugely important. Well, fun fact for you is that actually the Japanese, 2 of them, Yoshi and Kaya 44, who are the former Browman winners from a few years ago, and Toshi and Telma Delu, who, that horse has been around plenty of 5-stars, went to the World Equestrian Games, I think, in 2018 as well. Both of them have an XCJ10 of 100%. They have been clear cross-country in 10 out of their last 10 runs. And to put that into context, I think 9 horses in the field, only 9 horses can say that, and 2 of them are Japanese horses. The other is Vinci de Levine and Kazuma Shimoto, and they have a 90% XCJ10. So they have pretty much almost a faultless cross-country record between them coming into the Olympic Games. Into context with other nations, the likes of Germany have 1 at 100% and 2 at 90%. The likes of France have 1 at 100%, 1 at 90%, and 1 that I am scrolling for, so would be a little bit further down the reliability rating. There's a lot to be said for that cross-country reliability, and they would have the strongest in the field in terms of the teams in that respect. Much higher than Great Britain, funnily enough.
I think that we should remember that Yoshi's been around, on the circuit for a really long time. I very well remember him coming to badminton in the early 2000s and going, really, really well. He is a proper full-time, long-term professional event rider. And he's been to lots of championships. He's been to loads of big events. There's no way he's going to be starstruck by doing this. He'll realise the enormity and the importance of what he's doing, but he's as experienced as anyone from any of the other nations.
Yeah, agree. I'm trying to think back. So I'm sure we're digging around in the Olympic archives in terms of Japanese results at the Olympics. And there was a games in the 90s, I think, pre-2000, whereby Team Japan were very much within the
I know it,
top
Nicole.
6. Do you know it? Go on, has helped me. Save
they
me.
Weren't very much within the top
that.
6. They were just in the top 6. They were 6th. And
well,
the reason,
the top 6, but yeah,
the reason that you know it,
Atlanta.
Correct.
Okay.
And what was Atlanta? Hot. Correct. We're going to talk about this in a moment. Okay, let's just talk about it now because it is the angle. But if that humidity is that humidity, these are one of the beneficiaries of it. I agree with you entirely, Catherine, in that the horses are sort of European and they train in Europe or the UK, whichever way you look at that. So maybe there's something there, but basically none of these boys are going to be surprised or uncomfortable in the heat.
No, not the athletes themselves.
No, but that'll be part of it. I think the athletes themselves, like Sam Watson from Carlow, Ireland, can train all he wants and can think about it all he wants and can get all the advice that he wants. But ultimately, like we are like white Irish who are not used to that kind of heat. So I think it'll be a bigger thing than I think it's going to be a big thing. That's my angle, by the way. This is the big reveal. I think we've two more teams to talk about on this, the Australians and the US in particular. I think if we were to just go on the basis of keep it simple, stupid, it's going to be really hot. And the people that are used to the heat will be better.
Yeah, which, again, there are other nations, perhaps some of the individual nations, who, while they're not going to win medals, will do better than expected as a result of that. It's a really interesting angle. The Australians, mind you, how long is it since Andrew Hoy competed in Australia? Quite a long time.
He wanted to come to, he's tried to go back to Adelaide because he always goes over for the Melbourne Cup. But I think it is a while since. Actually, do you know what? He's never competed at Adelaide. Is that correct? I think it is.
Right.
No, maybe it's like 20. Maybe it's never in the new course. Is it?
A 5-star.
Yeah, that's probably it.
I won't beat about the bush. I'm getting a lot of anxiety again now that I've already selected my podiums and I want to change them. So
Nicole,
we have recorded our podiums.
Change the podiums as we please.
Gosh, it's
the
hard.
Colosseum,
right.
Catherine, we called it on the last show because, as you can imagine, Peter Spike Milligan, the nicest man in eventing, completely impossible for him to pick a podium.
Yeah.
Couldn't speak highly enough of everybody.
Apart from Team France. Those are.
But I think the quote was putting a big line through Tom Carlyle and Bermain. That was he was very decisive at the start, and then he kind of cooled his jets a little bit, and we had all sorts of people on the podium at the end, including the Swiss and the Swedes. Just to give you a bit of context.
They like mountains. I think let's remember that Olympics throw up funny results. Look back, look at the records, and how often, I imagine if we'd done previews of all of the sort of last 8 Olympics and how many of those would have ended up in the podium, it'd be interesting because funny things happen.
But I disagree. Funny things don't happen. Like, of these teams that we're talking about, they haven't won a team medal, a podium, Catherine, in, 20 years, is it? Like, a team medal from this side of the world. Certainly not team goals anyway. Actually, a few of them have. Australia. What did Australia do?
Well, they've won a bronze and stuff.
Bronze, yeah, no, but goals, sorry. Team goals. Let me bring up my
You have to go back to Australia 2000 for somebody outside of France and Germany to win. And that was Australia dominated. 92, 96, 2000 for Australia. And in fact, actually, this side of the world dominated at those 3 games because actually out of the 9 team medals at 3 Olympic Games, only 2 of them went to the Europeans. And that was the Brits got a silver in Sydney and the Germans got a bronze in Barcelona. Otherwise, it was Australia, New Zealand and the US.
Oh yeah, from like 84 to 2000, they dominated. And then since that, though, it's been the other side of the world.
Yeah.
Like they're 2 different 20-year cycles. I think there's no doubt that kind of pretty much all the championships have been dominated by this side of the world. Like what was the last individual gold for the Kiwis is Blythe, in Atlanta. And then you've got the Aussies is Matt Ryan, 92, and then the Americans is still the dressage record. Oh, Catherine, that's David O'Connor, custom made. Catherine, do you want to know an interesting fact while you're here?
Yeah.
Who do you think leads the dressage?
Laura Collett.
Well, bad news for Laura. Only one dressage leader has gone on to win the Olympics.
Who's that?
David O'Connor.
Really?
Custom made. Yeah, Sydney. Sorry, that's what made me think of it. Interesting though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Loads of them are quite far out. Like Sam, I suppose Michael and Sam were like 5th and 11th. And anyway, basically it all tends to be in around that region.
It's interesting.
You're in London, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk. Let's move on to a couple of the other nations. So let's start with we'll save Australia and the US until later in the show. So let's go on to New Zealand, who would be coming in here. You know, there's been a bit of a changing of the guard for the New Zealand team. Blythe Tate's obviously retired. Mark Todd's retired. Tim and Janelle Price are very much the linchpins of that squad. I think they had 4 horses apiece in quarantine as to a real choice as to who they wanted to take out to Tokyo. I mean, everybody else was having a holiday in quarantine and sort of relaxing with one horse. Those two were kept really busy. But they go with Janelle Hescrovine-Darev, who was very much her first choice and has sort of cemented himself at the top end of her string with a top 10 finish at Kentucky. And, you know, the horse itself has been to the World Equestrian Games in Tryon, actually, with Dan Jocelyn on board. So Janelle Hescrovine-Darev, and then Tim has Vitali, who has been a real sort of comeback kid this year. A new ride for Tim, was a winner at Stragom in the long format 4-star, went very well for a 6th place finish in the Moulin. Then Jesse Campbell and Dicello, who were top 10. Were they top 10 or top 12? Top 12 at Kentucky.
Yeah,
top
11.
11th, yeah. So they were 11th. So they sort of got their call up with that very, very good finish in Kentucky. So they would be, if you think of the number of 5-star winners in Tim and Janelle's yard, these 2 horses aren't among them. So it's a bit of an unproven quantity in terms of that regard, but I don't think you can discount them based on the fact that it's Tim and Janelle, Jesse Campbell making his Olympic debut. There's perhaps a few more factors that are unknown.
Do you want me to save you? I'm going to save you. I'm going to save you. Okay. Hey, Nicole, I can see. Is that Nicole over there? It looks like a blonde girl blowing a whistle. Yeah, here she is. She's floating back to us, lying on a door. So, Nicole, this is our Titanic moment. And never let go, Jack. I am going to save you. I think we did this on the European show. It can feel a little bit brutal at times, but otherwise, what are we doing on these shows in terms of previewing actual top level sport? The Kiwis are well able for it because they're a sporting nation. Good, not great. That's the chances. They're right there with Ireland. And what they won't like is they're right there with Japan. You're talking about 2 5-star winners. As you say, has been a changing of the guard. I personally think the next group of Kiwis coming through are well able to put it up to the Prices in the same way as the Prices had to come through and break through at a time of Toddy and Blythe and Clark Johnson and everything. Like, it wasn't handed to them either. So Jesse, I think, is the first one to step up. He's in, and I think maybe you would say, I think you've touched on something that's correct, Nicole, though. When you're having a bit of a changing of the guard and a transitional time, I think you probably need 1 or 2 of your stalwart horses to be there with you to balance it out. And I just don't think they have it this year. You know, it's not, whether the conditions would suit is another question, but it's not Classic Moe. It's not, and you can probably, in Tim's case, name 6. And this is nothing against Gravine Darev, or nothing against Vitali, or kind of Falco, or any of those kind of few that were in contention here. It's nothing against any horse that's going. It's more around, we've associated the Kiwis, particularly Tim and Janelle, with probably 2 or 3 really big horses, maybe 4 horses over the last 5 years. You know, I'm thinking of Ringwood Skyboy, Wesco, probably in particular, Classic Moe. None of them are there. So we're changing the whole guard. Now, yesterday on the European show, I don't know what order they're coming out in, but we talked a lot about when there's not that much, 3 counting scores from 3. Can you just get 3 horses home? When there's not that much between it, I would want the get it done attitude of a Janelle Price leading my team. No problem. Like, if you want a Khaleesi, there she is, right there in front of you. She will lead that team, and will put all this podcast nonsense to bed. She'll put all that. She'll create an us against them atmosphere around that team that the Kiwis have always been really synonymous with. Very, very friendly, very, very welcoming, but ultimately, true gritty competitors who are there to win. Janelle will lead that, no problem there. I personally think the way that the cards are falling for them on the pitch is that they're not up against it, but they're in the dogfight now with Ireland, with Japan, with France. I would say they've got to get 3 horses home, and they've got to, I think, wait for an error, because I think they're all coming home, or I think they're all starting closer to the 30 mark, which means you maybe need more than a 20 from the Brits or the Germans if you get right up there. They're in podium potential, big time podium potential. They're a bit off gold. That's my feeling.
It might just really suit them, that position, because they actually aren't going there with their 5-star winning horses and that, Diarm is going to lead the dressage, or that's not really an example, but you know what I mean. And actually, I totally agree that Janelle is the linchpin of all of this, because she provides the drive in a way. And I wonder whether it might actually psychologically suit them better than being among the absolute favourites. And it might just spur them on and drive them on. And while stats are amazing, sometimes personality can be as key, potentially.
Yeah,
I agree. I'm twitchy about how much pressure the Brits are under, because they are so good. But
you are so anxious.
There is a lot to be said for actually going into the games and being able to do your own thing, go about your business really quietly. Nobody's shouting from the rooftops, and you can just quietly go in, do your best, and your best could well be good enough. Interestingly, if we're talking about cross-country reliability, again, going back to that whole team dynamic, team of 3, all 3 of the Kiwi horses have 9 out of their last 10. So 90% are on their XCJ 10. Solid, very, very solid, among some of the most solid teams there are. So, there's a lot to be said for that. But none of the horses have been to a championship with their current riders. Gravinder did, but with Dan Jocelyn, it's going to be a sort of a big step up in terms of the Olympics. And also, 7.5 minutes, I think the cross-country track is now. It's going to be fast. It's going to be furious. It's going to be a speed test. And Diacello wouldn't be the fastest horse. I think he comes into his own in the long format. But that's not to say that he can't go out and give it
a Johnny. The only thing I'll say about that is that Jesse says that he's actually, for a big long striding horse, very, very nippy. Yeah, he was second or third when he took him to one of those big cross country competitions. Whether it was Stockholm or Geneva or something. I can't remember which one. Yeah, and he said he's much, much nippier. He said his key characteristic for him in Tokyo was his adaptability.
Okay, interesting.
So he might be more suited to the course than you would imagine from having seen him at Kentucky.
Okay, interesting. Good to know. I love Jesse Campbell. I think I'd love him to do well. So I love everybody at the Olympic Games. This is so hard. Okay, let's go.
Wait. I have a question for you both. And this is Katrin. Nicole, you can sit this one out because you were kind of put through this yesterday if you want. But feel free to come in as well if you decide to.
Thanks.
But Katrin, there is a point, isn't there, at which, what I like is the idea that like we have all these conversations because they're all part of the package, which is, we're sitting here, we're talking, we're starting to think about humidity. We're starting to think about Janelle Price is one of the greatest competitors and eventers of this generation. So are we really discounting the Kiwis? Can we actually discount these Kiwis? And you start thinking, no way can we discount the Kiwis. We can't be putting a line through them. Impossible. And we start getting nervous. Nicole's getting nervous about, the wonderful British team. And like maybe all is not going to be okay because anything could happen. But what I think is all of this is correct. Do you know what I mean? All of these things are possibilities. But would you rather your British team were going over there under the radar with no one talking about them? Or would you rather that the three were going over there as, the 5-star winners, cock of the walk?
Oh, I'd absolutely prefer the second one. Of course. Britain's got 3 individual 5-star winners. Yeah.
Yeah, this is what it's about. And by the way, the Kiwis would take it as well.
Yeah, of course. I totally agree. And we can talk all around it. But of course, the Brits are going as worthy favourites on form, without a doubt. And I'd much rather have them in that position. And we can prevaricate and say, this, that and the other, and character and personality and horse and all the rest of it. But I don't think the Kiwis are going to win the team gold medal.
You'd go back to the stats. The stats being the 5-star winners and the fast horses and the horses that can deliver sub 20 and 20, 21 dressage. I'm not trying, this isn't an equirating thing. This is just a results thing rather than a character thing. What I mean is you'd say all of what we're talking about is nice extras on top.
Yeah.
But ultimately, totally. The thing you go with first is I'd rather an Olympic first-timer, Oliver Townend, over an Olympic 5-timer, Tim Price, when one of them has Ballymore class and the other has Vitali.
Yes, absolutely. And that is slightly indicative of the way the sport has changed, because the variables are fewer in the modern sport and we know much more about them because of things like equi ratings and stats and global, information. And it is different. Of course it's different. And I agree with everything you said.
It's tricky though, because it's very tricky because you can be made to look very stupid very quickly with 120 penalties. And I was saying to the guys yesterday, the pressure that is on those Brits, the big thing to make sure we all appreciate is that they've actually got a 58% chance of finishing on the podium. 58% chance of finishing on the podium. 51% chance of finishing in the top 2. It's great, but what you're hearing there is 2 from 5. They don't even hit the podium, Nicole. The Brits. But that's fine. It's just about understanding the sport. They're still the best team going there, and they're still the worthy favourites. But this is how the sport works: a single 20 penalties, or one horse plus another horse has to take a long route, and then a pole falls.
Yeah, and we don't know what's going to happen. We can't.
No,
we can.
We can speculate.
We can predict, given our best information, our best knowledge. We don't actually know, and you've got to stick your neck out, because there's no point saying everybody could win, because that's boring, and that's not why we're here.
Okay, right. Well, are we going to talk about a team that could win?
We're going to save the US and Australia for our special guest's imminent arrival, listeners. So very shortly, the Australian Olympic rider Amanda Ross will be on the call, but we'll wait for her for those two. So let's go first of all to China, because is it the first time China have qualified an eventing team? It's a big deal for them. And Alex Watian is their sort of talisman as such. It has Don Gennaro. Oh, Don Gennaro is at the Olympics once again. My love affair with Don Gennaro actually started in 2016 on the build-up to Rio, when he went on to finish top 10. And I think he is in with a great shout of coming back to form here. I would say, do not be surprised, I've said it before, I'll say it again, to see him up there with the dressage leaders after the first phase. If you're looking at the horse's 6-run average, in terms of those that could feature, he's actually got the 4th best 6-run average in the entire Olympic field, behind London 52 and Laura, behind Chipmunk and Mickey Young, behind Ballamore Class Oliver
I am
Townend.
shocked.
Then it is Alex Fassian, Don Gennaro. He's ahead of Toledo de Cursa, Tom McEwen, Setzeleg, Boyd Martin, Julio Kravsky, Sandra Offorth, Tom Carlile. Like, he is a very, very good horse. So look out for him in the first phase in particular, and he'll be leading the Chinese team and the Chinese challenge. So, but he can be naughty. We know he can be naughty. I would say, though, that he absolutely delivered in Rio, and fingers crossed he will deliver again here. Alex joined by Huadong San and Yingfang Bao. I hope that's how I've said that correctly.
Hasn't been naughty in a while, Nicole, Don Gennaro. I'm just looking here at his results. I mean, I was really shocked at that 6-run average. That's like 4th best 6-run average in the field.
In the Olympic field.
Just looking at them here, 21.6 at Bicton, 22.5 at Aston. They're the last two. He had a bad result when he dropped down to a 27.3 at Burnham Market. But the year before, 2020, September, the late Burnham Market, 23.8, 24.4 at Bergam. These are 23, 24, 22, 21. This is Toledo and all those boys. Yeah, you're right, Nicole. I didn't really appreciate this at all, but God, there'll be some hype. The FEI press releases will be out of control. Don Gennaro is almost definitely going to be in the top 5, you would think. Not definitely, but he's a great chance of going in there and shaking it up. Yeah, top 10 after dressage anyway.
Absolutely. And I think that's really important for Chinese eventing as well. I'm delighted for him that he is going, because I know Alex had a couple of choices, but, you know, I love the Don. And I know he had 20 penalties at Bicton, and then Alex retired. I'm pretty certain it was at the really influential angled brushes coming out of the water. It wouldn't have been the only one. He can be naughty. We know he can be naughty. He can have a few poles down. Across 2 rounds of show jumping in Rio, he just had 1 pole down. So I'm hoping that big occasion, you know, he has been campaigned relatively lightly over the last few years. Very much, you know, the aim for Alex, he's spoken about it in terms of funding, interest in the sport in China. The Olympics is their big deal. You know, the World Equestrian Games are a big deal as well, but the Olympics is very much their target. You know, they don't have the interest in the badmintons and the burleys that, you know, other nations do. So this is a big chance for them, and I'm looking forward to watching them at the games. I will be waving my little Don Gennaro flag. If you haven't already, actually, go and follow Alex on Instagram, because he is putting tons of behind the scenes stuff up, and it's really interesting. Okay, let's go to, should we do another team? Let's go to Brazil, who have Marcelo Tosi, Glenfly, Carlos Paro, Goliath, Rafael Lozano, and Faluda G. I'd say that the Brazilian team, Marcelo Tosi and Glenfly, have done plenty of 5 stars, but the other 2 combinations would be less experienced. So yes, the riders have had experience at championship level and have been to the Pan American Games as well, but the horses very much making their championship debuts. But any comment on Brazil? How tough is it, actually, Catherine, to come back? You know, there's so much hype going into your own home Olympics in Rio, and they did a brilliant job there. But there's a lot of hype at a home Olympics, and then it must be pretty tough to come away from that then and rebuild your structure and your format and everything else for the next 4 years, or 5 years in this case, for the next games.
Yes, but Brazil is a country with an eventing history. You know, that they didn't just appear to go to the Rio Olympics. There have been Brazilian riders at Olympic level, regular championship riders for ages. You know, they may not be a huge group of people, but they're well established, they're experienced. You know, Brazil is a very equestrian country. So I don't think it would be quite like, I don't think it's quite like that. I think there's plenty of experience. I mean, not all of them compete full time. You know, Marcelo Tosi is a businessman, but I love that. I love the fact that they can go off, some of them do different things in their lives and then appear at a championship and do really respectably. Glenfly, I think, is the only ex-racehorse in the field this time, I think. Look, they're not going to win a medal, but I don't see why they shouldn't put up a perfectly respectable performance. And let's think heat and humidity is their riders are used to that for sure. Rafael Lozano, he worked for Mark Todd for a long time, didn't he? He's
He
plenty of experience. He's not old. He was very young when he came to Toddy, but he's not exactly a new kid on the block.
No, they're a good bunch of guys as well. I think there'll be a lot of people. Really
one interesting angle for me there, I think, is I think it could be a coming of age moment for Carlos Parra. I think in the same way as we talk,
professional.
Yeah, he is, but he is absolutely. And I think in the same way as we talk about Khaleesi in New Zealand leading their team, for a long time.
And by Khaleesi, you mean Janelle Price?
Yes. Yeah. But I think this team has been led by Rui Fonseca for a long time. He's been the linchpin of Brazilian eventing. He will be missed at these games. Such a popular, and that's such an easy thing to say, such a popular rider on the circuit. You hear that kind of thing thrown up all the time, but he's one of those faces on the circuit that brings together not just his own team, but kind of all the teams. Like, he's one of those people that other people gravitate to. So to take that out of a team is a big thing. For that not to be there as part of we talked about kind of Kiwi transition, for that not to be there for some of the Brazilian team is a big loss. And I just think that this is when you're missing someone like that, you have to turn to who else is going to step up and fill those boots. And I think it is Carlos Parra. He's experienced. He's been everywhere. He's been probably like not number 2 to Rui, but in terms of like that big personality, he's always been kind of alongside Rui, whereas I think now he leads it. And they're the kind of moments where you need something like that to happen. You need circumstances to fall in a certain way, but I'd be interested in kind of just watching that team dynamic. I think Goliath will be well able to go there and compete. He's not going to be probably winning individual medals, but you know, he's basically like he's able to do somewhere in the 30 to 35 bracket. He's able to jump clear because they all have, and he may have 1, he may have 2, but if he's able to finish sub 40 or on 40, it's plenty competitive. It would be a counting team score if they could all do it. You know, if they all finished on a 40 or 45, they wouldn't be a million miles off. So while it's a low chance, Catherine, you're right. I think the interesting one for me there, Carlos Parra and Goliath, and also what he brings now to Brazil.
I'd say that interestingly for them, the Brazilians actually, they had a bit of through circumstances and a few horses retiring or being injured and that kind of thing, they actually had a bit of a challenge to get the qualification results into their horses. And, you know, Goliath, for example, only actually got his 4-star long qualification in Stragon this year. So they haven't necessarily campaigned with the handbrake off cross country. It's very much been about sort of ticking the qualification box. This is now the next step from that. I am looking forward to seeing them. And I think we might try and get Rui on the show actually over the Olympics. We'll have to do that. Anyway, we are going to say hello to our special guest because she is an Olympian. She is hopefully going to give us the inside line on the Australian riders. Welcome back to the Eventing Podcast, Amanda Ross.
Hi, Nicole. Hi, Dom. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Oh, it is good to have you with us. We have been saving the Australians. We've not talked about them yet. We've been saving them. So we will dive straight into those in a second and sort of pick out a few of the key ones to watch because the Australian team actually come here with a very, very big chance. What is your feeling on the riders coming from Australia? We've obviously got Stuart Tinney and Leporis, who were actually originally the 4th man. They've been drafted in after Chris Burton and Quality Purdy, who would be a big loss to the Australian team, to be fair.
To be fair, can we not skip over that? To be fair, they are a big loss. Oh my God. Chris Burton is one of the people that I think should and could be there on any horse in his stable.
Yeah,
he is a massive loss. And we're talking about Rui Fonseca as a leader of the team. The Kiwi or the Aussies are not short on leaders. You know, they like between like literally anyone who's currently going on the team. You think Andrew Hoy, probably a different style of leader, quietly spoken, very kind, but you can't not be a leader doing it 8 times. Shane Rose, an incredible personality and kind of force of personality, and again, so experienced. And Tinney, the exact same, been there, done that, and again, an incredible strength of personality. All leaders, but raw talent, and a man that goes and sits on a horse a few days before and wins the home 5-star. Chris Burton is the individual medal hope on probably 3 or 4 horses in his yard, and he's not there. I think it's a big loss to them, and I think it says an awful lot about the strength that they have, that Tinney can come in on Leporis, and they're still right up there for a big medal shout here.
Yeah, it's a good point. Amanda, what's your take on it?
Look, honestly, I think that we had a super strong team with Berto in it, and then I still believe that we've got a really strong team bringing in Stuart. So obviously, just before selections were announced, everyone was thinking that Stuart would be definitely on the team on the Chestnut Celebration, and then unfortunately with a bit of a paddock injury, he didn't get there. So to then have Stuart as a reserve on Leporis, I think, that's a fantastic reserve to have. And then Leporis just cruised around as quite a young horse around Adelaide 5-star and, made it look easy, had all the endurance. And I hear that he has, a really, really good temperament too. So I think also part of this whole journey is the survival of the travel and the survival of that entire lead up to, and not just the event itself. So, if they've got good temperaments and they travel well, that has to be a good thing for their overall performance.
So Stuart, I love Leporis. I think he is a really, really class horse. I've been big on the celebration bandwagon over the last year or so as well with Stuart, and I think he is a class horse that we'll see at the top end individually at future championships. But Leporis, you say he cruised around at Adelaide 5-star. He's one of the youngest in the field at the Olympics. He's only a 10-year-old. And he went to Adelaide as an 8-year-old and went clear, finished actually in second, was runner-up behind. I think that was one of Hazel Shannon's victories. Yep. But, he's a really, really smart horse. Let me ask you about we've talked a lot about conditions on this show, many shows. We're all about the weather, Tokyo. Obviously, the Australian-based horses in Leporis and Stuart Tinney and Shane Rose and Virgil will be very used to these kinds of conditions. They actually have a slightly shorter journey, having flown straight from Australia as well. You've been to Tokyo. What is your opinion and what are your thoughts on the humidity, the heat, and how actually, having trained in that at home as a rider growing up in Australia for all of them, but also in terms of their day-to-day work for 2 of the squad, in terms of that coming into play in Tokyo?
Well, the boys, so Stuart and Shane are from Sydney. So where I'm in Melbourne at the moment, I can tell you're not going to get any heat training whatsoever. It is absolutely freezing. But Sydney is definitely a lot warmer and more humid, and even more so if you're going up to Queensland. So definitely in the summer months, we've just become really accustomed to working in that heat. But they've also got the humidity factor, which is pretty full on. So when we went there for the test event, I must say, the humidity really does zap your energy. And so it was interesting to see how long it took, like how many days after being in Tokyo it took for the horses to stop sweating quite so much. So Andrew, the mare that Andrew took for the test event, I think they were saying that, the first few days it was quite sweaty, and then it started to sort of sweat a little less just when she was even going out grazing. So it definitely, I think, we also talked about, is it better off to try and stay there for longer and acclimatise, or are you better off staying in the, in the air-conditioned stables and just going out when you needed to and then coming back and recovering again? So I think on one hand, the horses definitely come from a warmer climate in general. And then on the other hand, they're still going from a slightly cooler environment and a winter environment into that heat. So it'd be interesting to see.
No, Amanda Ross, we can't let you get away with interesting to see, because you're our main guru here. You're the main source of information that we have. It's like we have spent so long basically saying that the Brits are going to win this doing handstands. If you're looking at stats alone, you're saying, okay, those three are so strong. The Germans are so strong. Traditionally, both those, like, it's been, what did he say? It's been 20 years maybe since we've had any gold medals from your side of the world. Haven't had a big period of dominance. So then
they'll be fine in the heat.
Yeah, we were gearing up for this show, and we thought, okay, there's two big nations. There's the Aussies and the US, and they both have massive podium chances, and they both are going there. You know, the cards have fallen well. The cards we think have fallen a lot better for the Aussies than they have for the Kiwis in terms of, say, the year that they happened, the year like Tokyo 2021. You think Lepore is probably, as a 9-year-old, probably not there. As a 10-year-old, yeah, it feels like he's a good sub to bring in, good jumper. Like, whereas when we look over at your friends, the Kiwis, you're thinking, okay, a bit transitional. They're probably happier in 2020. So the question around this heat thing is, like, can it be this big an impact, whichever way to go? Will it affect, as I was saying, Sam Watson from Carlow, Ireland, who, if you think Melbourne is cold, like, this isn't cold, but it's just kind of raining and kind of wet and a bit cloudy all the time. It's not really any weather. Will it play with riders' heads, like, just when you step out? Sam said to me he was out for a run this morning at 7:15, and he said the sun is high in the sky and it's hard to breathe. Humid and hot. 7:15 a.m.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then, if you're not used to it, even if you do come from winter, but your summers are really hot and gross, you will be used to it. And I do think if you've not experienced it before, then definitely it's zapping. Like, it's definitely, the first day when we were out there, you're like, this is not so bad. But the more days you spend out there, it's a cumulative effect. And particularly if you don't hydrate properly and you don't sleep particularly well, I definitely think that by the end there's a cumulative effect. Yep.
Oh, Nicole Brown, you don't see weather like this in Yorkshire. You are getting nervous. You're nervous.
I am big on the Australian team. I put them on my podium, listeners. I have been strong on their chances, and I'm just looking at them now, and actually I'm going, right, what am I thinking? And I'm looking at the breakdown of their numbers and thinking, yeah, I'm very, very happy, because they have got 3 out-and-out jumping horses. They've got 2 of the best show jumpers in the field in Virgil and Vasily de Lassos on paper. I'd actually say Leporis isn't far off, actually one of the best jumping horses in the field as well, because he's never had more than 1 pole down in 14 internationals. He's had 3 rails. Often gets a time fault in the jumping. So if the time is tight, look out for that on the final day, 2 rounds of jumping. But in terms of experience, Stuart's been to 3 Olympic Games, Shane's been to 2, Andrew's been to 8. Added all of those together, that's got to be by far the most of any other nation. And they, I think, will be aiming for a serious colour of medal, not just any colour of medal. I think they will. And I'm going to put it out there
Nicole,
again.
To the top.
Yeah, I think they will be. Stuart and Leporis are very, very good jumpers. The horse is faultless internationally on his cross-country record. We've already said cruised around Adelaide as a 8-year-old in a 5-star. Virgil, Shane Rose, has literally been to almost every 5-star in the world. He has travelled all over the shop. He's been to Burghley, he's been to Po, he's been to the World Equestrian Games, which, to be fair, the World Equestrian Games is the only blip on his record. And then you've got... Yeah, and then Virgil's World Equestrian Games, I think, was it? I'm trying to think what he had cross country. 1 refusal, 20 penalties.
He just had a duck out, wasn't it?
Yeah,
coming off the top of the corner, that was it. Skinny.
And that was it. But otherwise, you go back to, he's been top 10 at Le Moulin. He's been 2nd at Adelaide 5-star. He's been 3rd at Po 5-star, and he's never shied away from travelling the horse and bringing him up against some of the best in the world. He's an Event Rider Masters leg winner, which, when you're looking at a short format, that was up at Blair Castle. Blair is a million miles away from Tokyo, but, it's a shorter format. We're expecting that 7.5 minute cross-country track. He's got the speed at short format.
He's done it in both, isn't it? He's remarkable. As you say, he's travelled to Blair. Remarkable. He's travelled to Blair and won. He's able
been
to
second
do it.
At Adelaide.
Yeah, you can't can't team that up too much. Experience is there. Like we talked, Katrin, I was asking you, like, would you rather all the character without the horse talent, or would you rather like no experience and all the horse talent? I think Shane Rose and Virgil in particular have it all. Andrew Hoy and Vasily, like the most perfect jumping. Good enough.
Sorry, Catherine. I would say that if they were all in the 20s, late 20s, they'd be happy.
Yes, Katrin Austin. Yes, Katrin Austin.
Right, they're not the 22.
To the chase of it, yeah.
There'll be 10 marks off. There'll be more.
There'll be more than that off the Brits.
There'll be 15 marks off the Brits after the first phase.
Yeah, interestingly, I would say that is where celebration.
This is where time penalties come in, show jumping, all the rest of it. But once you've got a dressage lead, you have to give that away, don't you? Like, if you can start in front, surely that's the best position to be in.
Do you have, Amanda, any inside information on Leporis's dressage? Because he scored a 35 last year in a 4-star short, and he scored a 27.7 last time out this year in a 4-star short. Where would we be expecting him to be?
I think he's going to be in the late 20s, because I think the horse has had time to mature and is definitely coming into an age where he's going to be much more consistent. And I know that the guys have been working really solidly, so I'm going to put him in the late 20s.
Okay, all righty, good to know. Let's talk Vasily for a second, because I've actually run out of my damson gin that I was going to toast Vasily with. And I'm not sure I can bring myself to reveal at 9:45 in the morning, but he is literally, Amanda, this is okay for you. You're on the other side of the time frame. You can totally have a drink and feel okay about it. But Vasily de Lassos is like the wonder horse, in so much as he has been no more than 8 seconds over the time in his last 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 runs. And that includes long formats. It includes the World Equestrian Games. It includes plenty of short formats where the time's been tight. He's had one rail in that time. His dressage is coming down. He scored a personal best last time out at Le Moulin. Basically, whatever he starts on, he should finish on. And Dee, you have made that point again about on the European show about stride length. Somebody described the cross country to me as it's like a washing machine. It's twisty, it's turny.
Yep.
I think he's going to come into his own. I really think he's going to come into his own.
Yep, agreed. He's going to be so quick, isn't he? Because Andrew is, he's ridden there before. Don't forget, he did ride at the test event, so he's got a really good feel for the track, I think. And Vasily looks quick, and he's quite an efficient horse on the ground. Easy to turn, quite nippy, and that's, like you said, it's like a washing machine. I reckon it's like a go-kart track. And then if he's going to, again, be a classy show jumper, and he's going to deal with the heat, and he's not going to knock up after, 3 or 4 days or more, like 3 or 4 days of competition, but then they've been there for the days preceding that. I think that's exactly the type of horse that we need.
So any horse can have a cross-country jumping fault. We know that. Michael and Sam had one. Janelle and Molly had one. Gemma and Arctic Soul had one. Okay, it'll happen. Very, very few at a risk.
Interestingly, Paula Evans, who owns this horse, is on the owner special, which is out now, listeners. Go and listen to it, because it's amazing to get the insight of the owners and their sort of story going into Tokyo. But she said she's fully aware that at some point it will happen. She just doesn't want it to happen yet. She's realistic, but...
Well, it will happen at some point. I can't, but the thing is, I would say of all the horses in the field, if I was to say, bet my house on this, he's the horse. And it's still only about 80%, by the way. That's where the top horses are.
Okay.
It's about 4 and 5, about 80% chance that he jumps clear, even though he's never had a cross-country fault. However, he's going to do somewhere between... he's going to do, his best is about 27. It's in that 26, 27 region. I think his best is pretty recent as well, didn't he?
27.6 is his best.
That's last time out, isn't it?
Yeah,
and then it was Aachen the year before. Aachen a couple of years ago, actually. Okay, so you're going to, I think his best, very few horses do their best.
On a surface.
Yeah, but also this is a tricky old test for him. I think we said the last time, did we not? Anyway, let's just give him a 29. I'm just going to make an executive call on this. 29, I think, is a fair mark for him. But I'm getting messages now saying this is going to be a hard time. This is going to be a tough time. I've heard it from a few different places now. I've got Amanda Ross on this show saying this is going to fry a few people's brains because they're not going to be used to the heat. Riders as well as horses, but particularly I'd say riders. Decision making, last part of a course, you're 10 days into not being able to sleep because you're too hot, not hydrating properly because you've never had to do this before. I think Vasily is made for this. He's competitive. He's with the 8-time Olympian. Hoy probably leads this Aussie team. But would we all just feel pretty stupid at the end if, like, the horse that was a baby at the World Equestrian Games who finished on his dressage score didn't just go on and finish on a podium here, whatever colour, individual podium, plus probably individual team silver or bronze for the Aussies. They go and make the conditions count and they make the experience count. If you don't say that and you look back at these Olympics after, how obvious would it feel? Experience plus heat plus horse talent.
I think the Australians have all of the ingredients here.
They're going to win it, Nicole.
All of the ingredients. I've got Australians on both my team and individual podium, and I think they are very, very strong. I'm going to put it out there, so I'm going to make a prediction. At the Olympic Games, Michael Young has finished on his dressage score twice. He's done it when winning both of his individual titles. I think only one other person has done that, and that was Andrew Hoy, that was in a team competition back at Sydney in 2000.
Two horses there, yeah.
And he had two horses, didn't in the individual competition. I think Andrew Hoy is going to be the only person in the Olympic field to finish on his dressage score in Tokyo.
It's so rare. It's so rare to get her off the fence, Amanda. Oh, my God.
And then she goes, I like that prediction. Like, okay. That's a great prediction. I like that.
Mm-hmm. I'll take that. Okay, right. Anything on the Australians, Amanda? How confident are you feeling? What sort of medal do you think? You have done your podium. So did you have them? Oh, obviously, you had them on your podium.
Well, yes, I did. I think I put begrudgingly, and I'm sorry, I put the Poms in the lead, and the only reason I kind of edged them in there was because I thought they have come straight out of multiple competitions. So they announced their team really late. They made them run. So I think their form is going to be really, really current, and they're just going to go straight into PEQ and straight to Tokyo off that form. The Aussies, I think I put them in silver, and I'm starting to think that I'm going to regret that, and maybe I might flip them up to gold for all of the obvious reasons discussed. And then I think I put the Germans third, because I've looked at that team and I just thought they're precise, they're consistent, they're professional. Yeah, they were my top three.
Okay. All righty, let's go. And I would say Kevin McNabb and Don Cadam, who is their fourth member. I would say, he can feel that he would have walked on plenty of Olympic teams. The strength and depth
for sure.
This squad shows that. But he will be a great fourth man. And if he is required, he's been top 10 at Kentucky.
Agreed.
The horse is very, very good. Right, let's talk US combinations, because they are the other big team who we've spoken a lot about, and they line up with Boyd Martin and Setzeleg, Philip Dutton and Z, Doug Payne Van Diver, Tammy Smith, Mybalm are their fourth man. I would say if Tammy comes into the team for any reason at any point before the competition starts, look out for them as an individual contender, because they will be mixing it in the first phase with the likes of Laura and London, Toledo, de Cursor. They can score the low 20s, but they're not in there at the moment. So we're going to concentrate on those three. I had an interesting conversation this morning. This show is out at the moment, and it was with Max Corcoran. So you can go back and listen to it. He's out there, USEA president, has been to 3 Olympic Games as a groom, is out there as part of the organising team for Tokyo. And I asked her about the weather, and she was like, yeah, it's just like a hot summer in Florida. You know, she's the only person that's been actually really played it down. And I think that is going to be a serious secret weapon to the US riders, Dee.
This is where it gets very interesting. We talk about how long it has been since we had David O'Connor and custom made. It's whatever, 21 years now. The Americans are too big to be this bad for this long. That's the truth of the matter. There's no point in saying it any other way.
What a line. That could go on a t-shirt, Dee. They're too big to be this bad for this long.
Do you know what I mean? They have the talent, and you know they have had the talent all across that period. I'm thinking about people like Lauren Kiefer and Veronica. You know, that horse is too good, you know, not to be mixing it on the world stage. And you've had a long list of Philip Dutton horses now, between Philip, Boyd, Doug Payne, serious talent, Tommy Smith, serious talent, and actually there's 3 or 4 more all across the US who could probably feel disappointed not to be on this team. You know, you got Brannigan, you got Hannah Sue Burnett, you got Ariel Grold, who's just come off the back of a big result in a 5-star again. This is a strong eventing nation. And any time that you spend in the US for any reason reminds you of that. This is up there alongside British eventing in terms of the depth and how much they care about it. You go to the 4 big nations, I guess, of the sport, or the 5 big nations of the sport. Germany, very different approach, very small, looks after themselves, has kind of relied on 4 people all across, say from Bettina, Julia, Ingrid, Michael and Sandra, with kind of bits of kind of maybe Dabowski, Oswald and maybe Dirk Schrader. But you can probably get to 7 or 8 or 9. It's all been contained within there. The Brits, the complete opposite. The Aussies, maybe a little bit more like the Germans. The Kiwis, definitely more like the Germans. You can probably name the 6 that they've relied on for the last decade. The Brits and the Americans are the only 2 that have literally riders and horses coming out their ears. Their problem has been to try and identify the best talent and get the top ones to the very, very top, as opposed to kind of just floating along in there. What's fascinating here, Nicole, is how excited are we about the Aussies? You know, experience plus horse talent. Sean Murray has run the simulation for the teams. You won't be surprised to know that the Brits are favourite, and you won't be surprised to know that the Germans are second favourite. So when I got handed this sheet, I thought, yeah, what? The US are next. The US have a 14% team gold chance with this team. Put that into context, the Australians are on 6%. They have a 46% chance of a podium. So 50-50 shot, they're just below it. So you might say that's bad or not great. Put it into context, the Germans are 56. 46 of a podium. We would be saying the Germans are pretty likely to hit the podium. I think most people would. I think that people have the Americans a little bit further down. Because they've been on a bit of a journey, you think Lynn Szymanski and Donner had that freak show jumping round, which knocked them out of kind of World Games qualification for the Olympics, so they had to hold on a little bit for their Olympic qualification. You think Kiefer and a few more had problems at Rio. You think there was a few problems at Tryon.
They've had a lot of heartbreak. Like they have
heartbreak. Yeah, but part of it you have to say, like, you can't be always getting your heart broken, because there's a point at which you have to be like, well, like when am I going to stop kissing frogs and meet the prince? You know, like when's that happening for me?
Catherine would like to ask you that question, Dee.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that, Nicole. But yeah,
sorry. I couldn't resist.
You can put my phone number at the end of this program if you really want.
Catherine, what's your take on it? Because you've been doing a lot of work with the US over the last few months and have had a real insight into how it's working for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I've learned a lot, and it's very interesting. So Boyd Martin and Philip Dusson are two of the world's most experienced event riders who, time after time after time, get really, really great results. I don't really understand, if I'm being completely honest, why Tammy Smith isn't in the three, but a lot of people know a lot of things that I don't. I don't know is the answer. I could, if I looked at nearly all of the teams going to the Olympics, I could say yes, no, and I really don't know what to think about the Americans. I can argue probably for about 10 minutes, which I won't do, in either direction. But ultimately, I think I'm going to have to choose one side or another right now, and I'm going to say they're not there yet. But I don't know why that is, really.
It's interesting. So, I mean, Tammy Smith and my barn, personally, I love the combination. I was super impressed with them in Kentucky. However, they had an 11 penalties. They also went to the Pan American Games and had a really, really disappointing result there. So they've had two fairly high-profile cross-country runs. And the Pan American Games one was, only at 3-star level. So I think that's probably why they're not on the team. They've gone for cross-country reliability. Everything they've done is cross-country reliability. Philip and Boyd, very, very experienced. Again, grew up in Australia, used to the heat from over there, used to the heat in the
and we've
US.
Gone through that theme of the show, and certainly, on that point, that certainly suits them. But there's a real mental block around, for some reason, saying that, yes, the US are going to get a medal and it's going to be a fairly high-coloured one. I don't really know why that is. But
I think it's because we're all slightly cautious after the heartbreak that they have had. They've gone into a number of games with a lot of hope. And WEG 2018 would have been seriously heartbreaking to have gone in there and not secured that Olympic qualification on home soil. To then go out and, yes, they won the Pan American Games. They won it convincingly.
Been on those teams, and yes, Philip won an individual bronze, last time out. Yes, all of that. But are they there yet? You think they are, don't you?
No, I don't think they're there yet, if I'm honest. I was surprised, but I have to believe in Sean Murray and I have to believe in the numbers. And
sure.
I, for some reason, can't get that stupid problem that Z had at Aachen out of my mind. So when I think of Z, I don't think of straight up reliability. And then I just remind myself by looking at his record, and it's pretty faultless cross country. He's pretty good at dressage. He's pretty faultless cross country. Like when I see the price of him in Eventing Manager, I'm like, how is Philip Dutton that expensive? And then you go and look at his stuff and you're like, okay. The one thing I'm worried about is a lot of the form is US form against other US form. So you've got to sometimes, but Brit form against Brit form, Aussie form like Laporis, we're talking highly of. Andrew Hoy, hasn't taken Vasily to 5-star.
And has gone into Europe, hasn't done didn't do Bicton 4-star short, things like that. Yeah.
I think some of those European events are harder than they look. Like Marbach doesn't get half the praise that it deserves. And he goes there, like Strigom can be tricky year in, year out, but people don't really talk about it because it's not Bramham or Chatsworth or whatever. That's just our own natural bias, and that's fine. Some of those tracks in the US are tough, some of them aren't, but that's the exact same in Britain. We're talking about Don Janeiro's 21 or whatever at Aston Lawal's, grand, but it's Aston Lawal's. So just because we don't know the venues doesn't mean that they're all easy. It also doesn't mean that they're all hard. And we all kind of have our eyes open to that. The obvious one for me, Setzer Leg, I think, huge. That he's not my friend anymore when I stopped calling him Sexy Legs. Huge chance.
The highest finish of the Americans for me.
Do you think?
Yeah.
The best finish, the highest, the highest. Sorry, the best finish, the highest.
Yeah.
Yes. Look. He's a cool customer, Boyd. If we're going to go talk about the big Aussie leaders on the team, if we're going to go talk about the big Kiwi leaders, the experience of Ireland, the kind of the German strength, young, double Olympics, Offart World Championships, Townend 5 stars, call it 5-star. Like, you want to, Tom, the exact same. You want to go to personality? Philip Dutton has it. Get it done. Boyd Martin has it. Get it done. Doug Payne will dig in. They're not going to be far off, lads. I think this could be it. I'm surprised that I'm saying it. I'm surprised. I give you that. But the numbers are in here, and it would be stupid of me and to ignore them, because I rely on them so heavily for everything else that it doesn't work if you then cancel them out for something. Mm-hmm. But yeah, look at it. They need it. They're on a journey here, and they need a boost.
They've needed it before, and it hasn't happened.
They've had a real changing of the guard in terms of the management team. Eric G. Bander did. I think he was part of the team that did the World Equestrian Games in 2018, but had literally only just taken over. Whereas he's had now. I think they were one of the teams that Tokyo being delayed for a year actually suited them. They were quite happy with that. They were very happy because they've solidified their plans over the last 12 months. Amanda, what's your thoughts on the US team?
I definitely agree that Boyd and Philip have an enormous amount of, will make it an incredibly solid team. So I would be putting those two up there. I think I would sort of say, look, they're a chance to get in there at the end of the medals if everything goes their way. But again, sort of a little unsure.
That's exactly how I felt about it, if I'm honest. That's exactly how I felt about it.
Amanda was rather more concise than we were, but yeah.
If Amanda ran the show, we'd literally be done in 20 minutes flat and wouldn't be delaying calls. It would be great. Okay, let's go and talk about a few of the individuals. We've also got Thailand. We should say that Thailand have got a team out there as well. And there's a few horses, for any listeners that are familiar with Carnival March, who Piggy March produced, is going with Wirapat Peter Kononda. Cornatawat Samran has Beniro K, and Aranadha Chavanonut as Bowleyborn Prince, who I think was with, I want to say, Janu Bleekman, and possibly even originally produced by Lucy Vigasmar as well, but double check that one.
Dirk Strado had him.
Okay.
And Maxime Livio, the beautiful man.
The beautiful Maxime Livio. Bowleyborn Prince. Maybe, I don't know where I got that from then. Maybe I made it up. Yeah, maybe I made it up.
I think Annie used to ride the other horse of Lucy's, which was called something vaguely similar. But yeah.
Very possibly. Anyway, let's clip all of that bit out. So there's a couple of horse names in there that you might recognise, but it's good to see Thailand bringing up a team at the Olympic Games. And that's one of the things that actually the Olympics is all about. We'll talk about a couple of the individuals in a second, and there's a few of them there. But all the different nations, they'll all come into this with very different aims. Not all of them at a medal, not all of them would be to, be fighting out for that gold spot. But still, it's a huge, huge achievement and one that shouldn't be underestimated by any stretch of the imagination. And they've done a brilliant job in making sure that they've got, because it's one thing getting the qualifying ticket, but then you've got to make sure that you've got combinations qualified, fit and ready to go. And they've done that, and they've done that very well. So we'll wish them the very best of luck. Okay, individuals. Let's talk a couple of the individuals from South America, Catherine, because I know, Lauren Bullies, Castle Larchfield Purdy. She's in my eventing manager team, actually. If you haven't picked your eventing manager team, listeners, what are you doing? Go and get it selected. But
they're one of the pairs for whom this is the second Olympics, isn't it?
Yeah. We're in Rio 5 years ago.
Yeah. There's plenty of experience, and what else can we say? She's been to lots of big competitions. She's, done fairly well. She's not going to win a medal, but she is certainly going to get home and do it nicely.
Yeah, and do you know what? They've had some solid results. They've been on a podium in a 4-star long format. I think that was Rebecca Farm, I want to say, back in 2019. They completed Rio. They know each other really, really well, this combination, and they've been at the top level for some time. They've had a couple of cross-country faults in their last couple of rounds.
She fell behind them Kentucky, didn't she? Which was unfortunate.
Yeah, having had a couple of problems already. So they need to put that to bed here. But, you know, they were top 20 at Fair Hill back at the end of 2019 as well in the long format 4-star. So plenty of experience. Victoria Scott from South Africa is also in the lineup. Thomas Heffernan Ho from Hong Kong has the oldest horse in the field in Tabery, who is 20. Which
I remember Tabery with the previous rider. Yes, Tabery's been around for a long time, and he looks after himself. He knows what he's doing.
does the job. Was produced originally by Isabel Hudson and Lizzie Doolittle in the UK, but I mean has been with Tom for a good number of years now, since 2015, I think. So they know each other very, very well. Would be a first major championship for Tom, I think.
Yeah, he's not very old.
He's not very old at all. I'll double check how old he is in a second, actually. But he's been to an Asian Games previously, took a team bronze back in 2014. But otherwise, this is his, you know, his serious championship debut. And what a place to be going to do it. Who else is on the individual list? I want to say there are
2 Russian riders, and I can't say that I know anything about them, so I really shouldn't comment. But there are 2 Russian riders.
Do you know what? It's funny, isn't it? Because actually the Russians, when you looked at the world rankings in terms of like the different zones
the 2
and
Russian
things.
riders?
Yeah, there are 2 Russian riders.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are. But when you looked at the zones and everything, Russia were well in contention to have a team place if anybody dropped out. And actually, you know, it's not necessarily a nation that you sort of think of for their eventing sort of dominance. But actually, they'll come here and we won't get to see them very often. Andrei Mitin and Mikhail Nastinko are the 2 horses, one of which is one of the younger horses in the field, a 10-year-old MP Imagine If, which is Mikhail's ride. Would be in the 30s in the dressage. Not the most reliable XCJ 10, 60% and 70%. So 6 or 7 out of 10, their last clears. Could have a pole show jumping, but I think if we could see them go on and complete, we'd be delighted for them. So it's interesting. Word on the cross country is that, you know, there's plenty of tough direct routes, but actually there's plenty of longer routes from Derek de Grazia to get other people home as well.
I know who we haven't mentioned.
Go on.
There is an Indian individual rider riding a horse that we know a lot about.
Yes, Fuad Mirza and Signor Medicott of Bettina Hoy fame with Signor Medicott, but has been with Fuad for a while. Bettina helped the Indian riders actually for a good while. I'm not sure if she still does, but he actually had two rides that he could have taken, and Signor Medicott is the horse that he lines up on. But again, I think the horse, yes, with Bettina, I think set a few dressage records along the way, but still very much getting mid-late 20s with Fuad on board. It's hard. It's a hard act to follow, Bettina Hoy, in the first phase, isn't it? I mean, I don't think that says anything about Fuad at all. It's more saying just how incredible Bettina Hoy was. But yeah, good to have them at the Olympic Games.
Yeah, he scored, well, look, at 4-star long level and Babarosco recently, he scored a 29 in the dressage.
Okay.
Actually, and only had 2.8 time penalties and a pole down.
Oh, not bad at all. Pavarotti is another we haven't mentioned, with Jessica Phoenix, actually, because they are the individual representatives for Canada. Canada also absolutely heartbreaking to not get a team qualified. So Pavarotti goes and, you know, is very experienced, 19 years of age, has been all manner of placings at the Pan American Games, has had in 3 Pan American Games appearances, has won the individual gold, individual silver, and has been 5th as well, team medals at each of them. So has been a stalwart of the Canadian team for some time, and will be going. I mean, it's undoubtedly the horse's last Olympics, but it's good to have them at another championship. Went to WEG in Cannes in 2014 as well. Been to Kentucky numerous times, so hugely experienced for Canada. Okay, anybody else? Amanda, any more thoughts on Tokyo from you before we wrap up? We could just keep talking on these preview shows, so we need some sort of succinct order restored from yourself.
Oh, succinct order. Well, I can't comment on the individuals, I'm sorry, but I kind of feel like this is like trying to pick a Melbourne Cup winner, and there's a lot of really, really good combinations, really, really good teams, and I'll still put my bet in there that I think the Australians are edging above the British on my Australia, Britain, Germany podium. But yeah, I do think it could be anyone's race. I know that's a bit fence-sitting, throw it down.
Oh, to be honest, I feel like you're in the same position as me, in so much as the old podium anxiety is real, and it's hard to pick three. It's hard to pick three. Dee, Catherine, thank you both very, very much. Listeners, the rest of the world preview show has come to a conclusion. I need to go and lie down in a darkened room, and that is not just the Dams and gin. Look, the Olympics are nearly here. Tomorrow there will be a show out with all of our podium selections. The European preview show is available now. If you want to go and listen to it, go and give it a listen. There's plenty of discussion. There's plenty of debate on there as well. A big thank you, Amanda, for coming on the show. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Dee. Bring on the Olympic Games.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Echo Ratings Eventing podcast.
Have a wonderful day, everybody, and I look forward to having you back with us soon.
Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram for more.
Listeners, we'll speak to you again soon.
Are you looking for a super stylish riding helmet that also offers you excellent comfort and is developed using the latest technology? Well, whether you're a seasoned competitor travelling the world or a leisure rider enjoying spending time with your horses or ponies at weekends, Uvex has riding helmets to suit all requirements. The Uvex collection provides the perfect combination of style and safety, with high-quality materials, appealing designs, optimal fit, and ultimate comfort. Protecting people is the core philosophy of Uvex, and that is exactly what they strive to do. Visit zebraproducts.co.uk to find out more. When it comes to incorporating the latest technology, performance fabrics and innovative design, Bucas rugs are the choice of professional riders and horse owners from all over the world. From the Shamrock Cooler range, travel and stable rugs, through to the powered turnout rugs, travel boots and accessories, Bucas is a name synonymous with outstanding quality. With all of their products developed with the well-being of horses at the forefront, together with time-saving technology for the owners, Bucas pride themselves in ensuring that your horse always wears the very best. It really is the intelligent choice, and you can purchase the range through Zebra Products. Tucci Time prides itself with its expertise, skill and precision for the best in equestrian riding boots. Think premium quality materials meeting Italian design, perfection toward innovation, art pieces manufactured to perform at the very top level. Tucci riding boots are the highest expression of craftsmanship, savoir-faire and the heritage of the Tucci family tied to their crystalline creativity. Tucci manufacture unique riding boots with their own story and soul, and they fit you like your very favourite thing. Tucci riding boots are now available to purchase through Zebra Products.